Well, today marks day one of the long-awaited murder trial for Adam Fravel. Fravel is accused of murdering Madeline Kingsbury, his ex-girlfriend and the mother of his two children. Kingsbury went missing from the Winona area in March of 2023. Her remains were found north of Mabel in June of that year. The trial was moved out of Winona County to ensure a fair trial. His defense citing considerable media coverage of Kingsbury's disappearance and death. Tonight, we bring in our sister station, KTTC's Olivia Prodzinski. She has followed this case closely. Olivia, cameras are not allowed inside the courtroom. Take us inside today's jury selection process.
Yeah, Stacey, today was the first time that Adam Fravel appeared in court in a suit. It also was the first time that he was in front of potential jurors that could decide his fate. Fravel attempting to seemingly be friendly by standing up and telling jurors good afternoon. All eyes are on Blue Earth County as more than 150 jurors were called to possibly be seated in one of the biggest murder trials Southeast Minnesota has seen in recent years. The jurors will be narrowed down to 12 with alternates to decide whether or not Adam Fravel is guilty of Madeline Kingsbury's murder. The prospective jurors from all walks of life and pretty evenly split by men and women. They'll be questioned on if they can make a decision based on facts presented to them. 96 questions, ranging from the jurors' background to their knowledge on the case. Legal analyst Joe Tamburino, who is not connected to the case, explains jurors will need to put their own ideas aside.
Every case is different, and in every case, the judge on that case, that's the boss of the evidence and procedure. So whatever the judge tells the jury is the process or the law, that's what they have to use, not what a juror has heard.
Starting Tuesday, jurors will be called in one by one to be questioned by the judge, followed by the defense, and finally the state. And now we also watched several jurors watch Adam Fravel as the details on the case were being read. Stacey, back to you.